And so I'm really enjoying the fact that we're going online. And I'm looking at all of the beautiful invitees that came tonight, you know, and I was telling stories with Bard the Loud last week, and I see Jerry making a return visit here today. And one of the other things that I really want to highlight is Liz Weir and the fantastic work that she's doing with the Armstrong Trust. So I've gone to a number of storytelling workshops, and this story has come from one with Daniel Morden. So Daniel Morden is an amazing storyteller, and he shared with us how to bring stories from text to the live storytelling venue, and this story comes from that. So there was a family in Cork, and they had it really good. They lived on a farm, and everybody was happy with the chores that they did. The father would go out in the morning to milk the cows and feed the animals, and the mother would be singing as she made the breakfast. And they had a daughter who was as beautiful outside as she was inside. This family was known for their kindness, and the kindness came through their hands and the gentle way they might shake your hand or touch your face, and in their eyes, which always had the light of laughter in it. But you know, and I know, life is not perfect. And there came the time when the mother got sick and eventually sicker, and then she died. Around this time, the daughter was beginning to ask awkward questions of the father, questions that only a mother could answer. So he looked around, and for the love of his daughter, he thought to himself, maybe I need to marry again. So he went to the matchmaker in Lisdoon, Varna, and he said, is there anybody you think that might match me? And he said, oh yeah, there's a woman from Cork City, and she has a daughter too. Maybe she'd be a good match for you. And so they arranged a late supper, and over the candlelight, they fell for one another. Over the next few months, they made a decision to marry. And so the woman and her daughter moved from the city to the country in Cork. After the move, he found that she did not like to get up early in the morning. His new wife did not like to take off her high-heeled shoes and put on Wellington boots. Before she could face anyone or face the world, she had to put on her makeup every morning. And her daughter followed in these footsteps. No longer was there anybody to put the cheek of their face up against the haunch of the cow as they milked her and sang to the cow as they were doing so. So now there was more than double the work for the man and his daughter. The wife, seeing how it was, made sure to always be disparaging about the man's daughter when they were close together, and she told lies. And the man, being an honest man with no experience of this, began to see his own daughter in a different light. One day he said, I'm off to market now, and he kissed the cheek of his daughter, of his stepdaughter, and of his wife, and off he went down the road to the market. Once he was out of sight, the mother said, I want you to go into the forest, find that magic well with the beautiful water. I've heard that it keeps people young. And the girl said, oh no, please don't send me into the forest on my own. I'm not allowed to go there. And she said, this is your place. You know every creature, every flying thing, every crawling thing. You know them all. Go now and fetch me a flask of that life-giving water. Do what your mother tells you. And can I have the company of my sister? She said. No, you cannot indeed. Go now, she said. And she gave her a burlap sack. And inside in the sack there was some hard day-old bread. And there was some old cheese and a bottle of beer. She travelled for what seemed like hours and hours, into the heart of the forest, and the trees began to go closer together, and the bushes and the thickets began to crawl and claw at her skin. Then she saw him, this little manin. He just popped out from behind a tree, and he had a smile so wide that it almost met at the back of his head. "Hello," he said, "and who are you? And isn't it great to have company today?" "It is," she said, as delighted to see him as he was to see her. "Have you anything to eat?" he said. And they sat down at the base of a tree, and she shared all that she had with him, and she told him of her mission. "Oh, yeah," he said, "if you go right down there to the end of the thick thicket, and you can't go any further, you will have reached your destination. Take this little wand and touch the hedge when you get there, and say, 'Hole in the hedge, appear. Hole in the hedge, appear.' Now, when you go through that hole, you will see a well, and inside in the well, you will see strange things. But don't act as if they're strange, and whatever is asked of you, just do it." "Okay," she said, and off she went. It wasn't long before she couldn't travel any further, and she took the stick the man had given her, and she touched the hedge just as he had told her to do. "Hole in the hedge, open for me. Hole in the hedge, open for me," she said. And a hole opened in the hedge, and she walked through. On the other side, it seemed that even the weather was fairer on the other side of the hedge, and she knew that she was in a magical place. She walked up to the well, and she looked inside, and there, rolling around, were 3 old men's heads. No bodies, just the heads. Long, scraggly beards, long hair, and deep, scraggy eyebrows on them. And they looked at her and started to smile, and she smiled back. And then they said, "Wash us and dry us and lay us down softly. Wash us and dry us and lay us down softly." So she did that. With her very gentle hands, she reached in and she took the heads out one by one and washed them in the water from the well, and she put her fingers through their grey hair, taking out any of little old leaves or moths or creatures that might be crawling there. And their smiles got wider. And one head said to the other, "What do you think now we should give her? She's been so kind." And the other head said, "Well, it will have to be something special, something that would serve her." And the third head said, "I know, we'll make her smell like summer." And they told her and instructed her to take a flask of water from the well and to drink from it. And as soon as she drank the water from the well, the flowers started to pop up out of the ground, and the birds started to sing more strongly in the trees, because the smell that was emanating from her smelt like summer, like new mown grass, like soda bread when it's just baking. And so she filled the flask again with the magic water and started to head towards the hedge. This time she didn't need any stick, because the hedge just parted and almost bowed to her. On the other side, she met the young man from the neighbouring farm. "How are you?" he said. "I've never noticed you before, but you smell divine." And they got talking, and chat led to laughter, and laughter led to a date, and eventually he decided that he would like to ask her to marry him. And so they rushed back to the farm to tell the good news. Well, her father was delighted, but the stepmother and the stepsister, they were spitting feathers with rage. that she had gotten something so good. So they resolved that her own daughter would do the same thing. The following day, she had some sweet cake, a ham sandwich, and some other nice things to eat in a burlap sack. She had the best of wine and a bottle of water too, and off she set into the middle of the woods, and it wasn't long before she met the old man, and he, with his big smile meeting at the back of his head, greeted her. But she said, "Who are you to talk to me?" and walloped him on the head. "Well, I give you no good wishes," he said, as she tramped down the road towards the hedge. When she got there, she could see a gap, and she could see the well on the other side. So she jumped into the hedge, but the hedge was not happy and started to stick its thorns into her skin so that her nose was squashed and her face was bleeding when she came to the other side. And the sky came all over grey and ominous. She went to the edge of the well and she saw the three heads rolling there. She said, "Hello," they said. "Take us and wash us and lay us down softly." And for their trouble, she took her sack and bop, 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 she hit all three. Then one head looked at the other head and said, "Oh my God, how will we reward this one?" And the other head said, "Well, she's not very kind, so we won't treat her kindly." And the third head said, "I've got it. We'll make her smell like 10-year-old sweat, the sweat of a farmer that's been drinking and carousing and out playing with the pigs." They gave her the mucky water to drink, and she guzzled it greedily. Straight away, all the flowers round about started to wilt and die, and the birds flew away, for they didn't want to be in the vicinity. She got to the hedge, and the hedge was so affected that it just opened up to let her through. And when she got to the other side, she saw her sister there with her new husband. Her face was still marked from her first journey through the hedge. There was still blood dripping from her eyebrow, and her sister looked at her and felt pity in her heart. She jumped down from the cart and went to greet her sister. "Drink from this one," she said, and gave her the flask. As soon as she had taken a long, deep drink, all of the cuts and bruises healed, and the horrible, horrible smell went away. Her sister looked at her as if for the first time. "Oh, my goodness," she said. "I treated you so ill, and you just returned it to me with kindness." And in that moment, her heart softened. Her eyes began to look different. There was a smile in them now. And so she became a different person, one full of love and laughter. And that is the power that we have to bring goodness into the world.